Alrighty. Let's hope that this doesn't kick me out again. I'm going to reset the poll. Alrighty. Hey there, RC Swilzy. Are you someone that I've met before, or did you change your name? Because I've got quite a lot of I've got quite a lot of fans of mine who constantly change their names. So if you could let me know who you are, that would be much appreciated. Also, is there a nickname that you want me to give you so that I don't just call you by your YouTube name all the time? Because I always tell people to call me Paul, because that's my name. And also just because Faze Jedi? Well, definitely not a regular here, but hey, I welcome you all the same. Looks like you are excited about Sora as well, because there's only one vote. Oh, good, Jevil. I'm glad that you have a record. 2 point. Hey there, thinking hippie. Well, dang, I got some new people here. I wonder if rebooting the stream caused more people to come. So that's so funny. The purple picture. So, well, welcome to the newcomers who came after I rebooted the stream. I had a little bit of technical difficulties. Do I know who you are? I think so. Weren't you someone that was really into typology, and you were what was it? INT Paul was your name, or something along those lines. Sometimes it can be hard to keep track of. Sometimes it can be hard to keep track of all of my fans, and I apologize for that. But usually I prefer people to talk to me in comments or on Twitter so that I can really get to know people on a more personal level. I don't know. As long as you're not a minor, because I'm not really supposed to be doing that with minors. So everything I do that involves minors is always has to be in a public setting. Let's see. Castlevania games. I played a little bit of Castlevania 1 and I hated it. So I'm probably not going to jump into that franchise anytime soon. Asked about Fortnite? Well, I did play Fortnite a little bit. I just didn't get too into it because I'm more of a action adventure. Oh, Sale! I know exactly who you are. Yeah. It's great that you could come find me again. Yes. Well, welcome back. It was so good to talk to you back when we had Discord. I was in kind of a purge from social media in general, so I kind of wanted to just start over from scratch, and I wanted to get back into how do I word this? I got rid of all of my Facebook groups. Well, not all of them, most of them. And I set my notifications so that people wouldn't keep constantly bothering me, because I hated just going into my notifications and getting a whole notification slot for someone saying, okay. And it's like, oh, come on, give me something to work with, guys. So I wanted to actually be hyped for what I was getting notifications for. So I kind of just decided to start over with Discord and Facebook. You got it, Jevil. I think I used to be a big shot back when I was chaperoning conferences and back when I was a public speaker. Now I think I'm only kind of sort of a big shot. There are certain people that really like my stuff, but I had pretty huge crowds when I was a speaker, and I haven't seemed to have been able to recapture that magic. So we shall see. Oh, why, thank you. Why, thank you. Do you still want me to call you Sale, or do you want me to call you something else? Because I know you had a couple of preferences for nicknames. Because I don't know, I think it might be rude to keep calling you a hippie. Although I don't mind being called a hippie because of all this hair. But I do appreciate it when people are polite enough to use my actual name. It makes me feel like people actually care about me as a person. Okay, I'll just call you Sale then. And if you have any objections, just, I don't know, do your best Phoenix Wright impression. Alrighty then. I shall do that. So, I'd like to say that the only reason I'm doing this live stream is to pass the time for Sora, but that's not entirely true. I have gotten requests to do more live streams lately, so I've been trying to make them a little bit more frequent. I just did a video right before this live stream where I talked about developing weaker functions in the Myers-Briggs. So good luck with that if you identify as an INTJ or an INFJ, because I'm going all out in trying to get you guys to think like me. Easier said than done, because I am a very, very complicated individual. And there are some people that are still trying to figure me out, even though they've known me for years. But I would say that I'm not as complicated as most people. Generally speaking, once you know what I like, then it's pretty easy to determine my thought patterns. Like, I'll never say no to something banjo related, unless if within reason, I would say. Like, obviously, if someone, I don't know, say had Banjo-Kazooie porn, I wouldn't want to do that. That would be disgusting. But if someone said Banjo is coming on the Switch, which it technically is, thanks to Switch Online, I'm super excited about that. Then there's when Banjo and Kazooie were in Smash, I completely lost it. Yeah, Terry Bogard was weird because I didn't know who he was when they made the announcement. I had heard of Fatal Fury, I just didn't know Terry was a big part of it. Yeah, I got the impression the last time we talked that you were a bit of a hard person to figure out, Sale, but I would like to think I've gotten a little bit better at Myers-Briggs since then. Maybe not too much better, but like I've really studied the shadow functions a lot more, and I think that is going to help me better determine what someone's type truly is. 3 votes, and all of you voted for something different in the poll. That is so nice. So I have diversity on my stream. I bet you guys didn't think that was possible. I bet you thought, Paul doesn't like it. Diversity? What are you talking about? Well, this poll just proved you guys wrong. Apparently, I am totally okay with people that are only here for me. Well, put it this way, Jevil. You won't make me mad if you took into account the other stuff in Violet's Challenger Pack besides the character. Because it's one thing to say, oh no, not another Fire Emblem rep. But it's another to say, oh no, more spirits, another classic mode route, more music, and a new stage. Like, can you literally tell me you hated all of that, or is it just the character? Spectrums? If you mean the autism spectrum, then I would say absolutely. People on the spectrum are very much into obsessing over certain things. I wouldn't say it's exclusively a spectrum issue. Like, it's definitely possible for people not on the spectrum to have their obsessions. But I would say that, like, autistic people in particular, they don't really know how to switch conversations very easily. Like, sure, they could get started talking about something that they like, but then say the conversation changes to something that they're not interested in. They won't know how to ask questions so that they can be on the same wavelength as everyone else. And so they'll just say, hey guys, don't forget about me. Or they'll just be quiet and not say anything at all. So it really depends on the person. But generally speaking, spectrum people struggle with how to interpret social cues. And they often forget that not everyone is them. And so it's hard for them to realize when they're making other people uncomfortable, because the only people that they understand fully are themselves. So for them to comprehend, wait, what? This is making people uncomfortable, would require a significant stretch of the brain. Yeah, I would definitely agree with you there, Jevil. I personally think that Banjo and Kazooie, even if I wasn't like biased toward them by my childhood, I would have said they had the most unique moveset, because Joker is a knife wielder, Hero's a sword wielder with magic, Terry's another Street Fighter clone, and Byleth uses a lot of weapons, whereas Banjo and Kazooie are a bear and bird working together. Like, there's not even something that comes close besides maybe Duck Hunt. An ENTP having autism. I'd have to think about that a little bit, because you kind of caught me off guard with that question. But autism affecting personality in general. Well, I used to give public speeches on autism, so I could go on and on if you don't shut me up. But a couple of things that I know about autistic people are they tend to have very heightened senses, for starters. So, like, they might insist on wearing a certain brand of clothing, and they might also like constantly be covering their ears because what they're hearing is too loud for them. They might also like be very observant of everything around them. They might have very picky taste buds because certain foods just taste weird to them. They usually have, if they're on the high functioning end of the spectrum, they're definitely capable of talking. They just lack the neural pathways in the brain that govern social communication skills. So they don't really know how to fit in, is the simplest answer. It's a very, very involved process. Let's see what you said first, Jevil. I mean, I think it's totally okay to be biased towards your favorite character. I think it's cool that Smash has so many different characters so that you can constantly be... So that pretty much anyone who's ever played a video game can recognize at least someone in the roster. Like, I'd be very surprised if there's someone out there who bought Super Smash Bros. Only as a fighting game and didn't know a single person. And even if that's the case, there's the me's. Observations about autistic people that I didn't read. I've noticed that autistic people have a tendency to yes, that is definitely true, Caitlin. Yes, textures of food definitely can bother them. Textures of anything can bother them, really. Like, they might not like the way that a shirt is pressing against them. They might not like, say we talk about the necklace that I'm wearing. They might not like to tuck it under their shirt like I'm doing because it feels cold on their chest. They might not like these headphones that I'm wearing because it feels so constricting. But on the other hand, autistic people also really like feelings of compression. So that's why oftentimes they get weighted blankets, because it reminds them of that feeling of being hugged in the mother's womb. Don't get your hopes up for the next Smash yet, Jevil. Just enjoy the one that you have. So getting back to what I've observed about autism that is not something that I've read about. I've noticed that most autistic people, they tend to have a bit of a one-track mind. Not all of them. Not all of them. It's a spectrum. But the ones that do know how to talk they oftentimes only want to talk about one thing, and if you bring something up, then they'll kind of just like not know how to naturally progress the conversation. Like the average person, if let's say hypothetically, let's say I was talking about banjo, and then the next person said like, so Paul, have you ever watched Gilmore Girls? The average person would probably say something along the lines of like, no, I have not watched Gilmore Girls. Tell me about it. An autistic person wouldn't necessarily know how to do that. They'd just be like, no. And then that would just be like the abrupt end of it. They wouldn't know how to like ask a question and continue moving along the conversation. Generally speaking, if you get them on something they're interested in, they'll talk your ear off. But if you how do I word this? A lot of times for them, it's a learned process to be interested in what other people are interested in. Like they typically have a hard time being like excited for other people. That's something I've noticed. Again, these are observations. I could be wrong, but I have known probably more autistic people than all of you put together. So I have quite the experience. I don't think it's exclusively autistic to have heightened senses or to be oversensitive or spoiled. But I would say that one of the key defining traits of being on the spectrum is the neural pathways, which you can't really see that in an X-ray. So I don't know how you would prove it. But I guess like in general, to figure out if someone has autism or not, well, for me, it's really easy to tell because I've been around so many of them. Like usually watching their eyes is one of the biggest things that gives it away. The average person will sometimes look away from someone. Like they might look away if, say, they're lost in thought. Or they might look away if like they're noticing something in the background. But autistic people, they don't really make eye contact like at all. They're like constantly looking as if they're like not able to see you, but yet they respond as though they can. So typically if you look at their eyes, you'll notice that they hardly ever focus. And like if they can put their eyes into yours, they'll like quickly look away. So that's a big tell. It's also a bit of a tell if you notice that they're like constantly flapping their hands or tapping their foot or like rocking back and forth, which again is not exclusively autistic. Like there are people that have back troubles and that's why they rock back and forth, but they tend to do it at the worst of times. Like they might start dancing their foot during a funeral because their social neurological patterns can't say, oh, this is an inappropriate time to do it. Yeah, well, yeah, I definitely think that what you have is like it's sad that you're going through all that, Jebel, but if it makes you feel better, I know even other girls that have trouble talking to other girls. So it's not just you. Like my sister, for example, my sister really does not like talking to girls at all. She's just like they're so over dramatic and everything has to be a crisis for them. So like when at my young adult group, I actually met a girl named Autumn, not the Autumn that I dated, but a different Autumn, who openly came up to me and just said, Paul, I hate girls with a passion. And she was a girl herself. So I was like, you're telling me that you hate your own gender. Well, let me tell you why I think girls aren't all that bad. So I was trying to tell a girl why girls were okay, which was such a weird concept for me. I think that could just be the fact that you're it could just be the fact that you're an introvert, Sale. I think that's the most likely explanation. Yeah, Jebel, I'm not the best at eye contact either. So one thing that's helped me is getting a determined mindset. So like thinking to myself, how long can I keep up the challenge? I am filled with determination to keep this eye contact. Like maybe if you give yourself an Undertale reference, that might help a little bit. Again, autism is a spectrum, and there are certain people that have traits of autism without being autistic. Like, for example, there are people I know who are not autistic that have trouble with eye contact. There are socially awkward people who do not have autism. But again, the bottom line, first things first, the social interactions. Are they just bad at socializing, or are they not catching cues? Are they not detecting the vibe of the room? Like if someone is not interested in what they are saying and is like slumping over and starting to yawn and they're still just blabbing on and on about their interests, that doesn't come across as socially awkward. That comes across as more autistic because they're literally not even taking in the information that the person is bored. Or if, say, during a funeral, they're just like, I want to play Smash Brothers, and just shout that out. That's not socially awkward. Because I think a person who's socially awkward but not autistic might be thinking that stuff, like this funeral is boring, let me get out of here. But they would have the tact to avoid saying such an awkward thing. Let's see, SpongeBob. Yeah, I'm not a big fan of SpongeBob anymore. My sister and I tried to watch it recently, and we thought it was too loud and too annoying and too crude and too rude, and we didn't have too many nice things to say about it. I always ask whether people are bored with me as well, so you and I have that in common, Sale. Well, I think for me, like, most of my life growing up, I didn't have a whole lot of people that shared my interests once I got kicked out of school. So it was a big culture shock for me to go from a community where people were jealous of me because I had the Nintendo 64 to a community that said, the what 64 now? So that was a little bit of an awkward transition. Let's see here, my poll just changed. So most of you are excited about Sora. That's neat. The other thing to keep in mind if someone is autistic or not is how well can they communicate that they're on the spectrum. That's the other thing that's the key here. Like, it's possible for anyone to come to the realization that they're autistic. Like, you can study enough and you can see if you have the symptoms. But really try ask them the question of, how are you autistic? Explain to me why you have sensory overload. Explain to me why you need to always have the same kind of food. Usually it's going to be a bit of a challenge for them because that's another social neurological situation. So it usually involves elements that other people can have, but it's kind of to an extreme. Am I making any sense whatsoever, guys? Like, if I'm not, please let me know, because I don't want to be confusing you all. I think social awkwardness is a term that's overused, Jevo. So I would say a truly socially awkward person, from my personal observation, is someone who doesn't know how to say proper goodbyes and hellos and is like very abrupt with everything. So like, if, for example, I come into the room and I just hypothetically say like, hi, Jevo, how's it going? And you're just like, fine. And then you just leave it at that. You don't say anything else. And then I say like, oh, well, okay, well, what's been going on with you lately? Nothing, just school and work. Okay, have you taken a walk? Yeah, that's social awkwardness, at least in my opinion. I don't think it's socially awkward if, I don't know, if you don't know how to talk to girls, or if, and girls can have trouble talking to guys too. It's not like it has to be an exclusive thing, but I hardly ever hear guys saying they don't like to talk to guys because they're confusing. I hear other guys say, I don't want to talk to guys because fill in the blank, very inappropriate expression. I think it could give, Jevo, people are going to make assumptions no matter what you do. Like, even if you were the perfect socializer in the world, people are probably still going to misinterpret you because that's the nature of humanity. is our language is very inefficient at communicating what we're actually feeling. And at the end of the day, no one knows you better than you know yourself. And I don't think even the most extroverted person in the universe could ever fully explain what's going on in their own head. So I think to a certain extent, everyone is socially awkward because no one knows how to 100% reveal everything. And if you do, I imagine the only thing that would come even remotely close would be if you're married and you've gotten to that level of trust where you're willing to share so much that you're even willing to share what's wrong with you and things about you that are a problem. I mean, again, it's possible to do that without being married. But with marriage, you're not just selective about certain problems you have. You tell them everything. And by everything, I even mean stuff like you might tell them like, hey, if I go a certain amount of days without changing my underwear, I start stinking. Like that kind of stuff. You would just get so into TMI and you would just like nothing held back. Everything there. You even give your body to them. Why did I get kicked out of school? Because I was too smart. It's the short version. The school had their curriculums, and my intelligence was just so vast at the time that they just said, like, we cannot comprehend how to teach someone of your age that kind of advanced stuff. So I ended up being homeschooled, and I don't regret it. I love being homeschooled. It was so much fun. And it was great that my mom taught me so many cool critical thinking skills. Hey there, Liz. Glad to see you again. I take it you just voted in my poll because things changed a little bit. I think Andy told me that you really liked Kingdom Hearts, so I'd be very curious if you had any recommendations. Yeah, I get what you mean, Jevil, because if you tell people that you're autistic, then people are generally going to make assumptions about you. Like they're going to say, oh, you're autistic, so that means that you don't like people or something along those lines. And it's like, if you've actually studied autism, you'll realize that a lot of these people are actually very, very intelligent. They just need a little bit of a nudge in certain areas, and that's totally okay, because we all need nudges. Autistic people just happen to need harder ones. I wouldn't say I was ever in that situation, Sale. I was definitely not I bullied a little bit when I was in school, but I never bullied the teachers. It would always be my classmates. But the funny thing about me was that I was never bullied in secret. I would always... like, if I were to bully people, it would always be when the teachers were watching. So apparently it wasn't bullying because they never told me off for it. Hey, Liz, are you planning on coming to the game night on Saturday? Because Andy is willing to go above and beyond to make sure that I can go. So hopefully you'll be there, too. We're going to be playing cribbage. And that was actually my suggestion. So... hopefully you can come to the game night that he restructured specifically for me. Oh, interesting. If Caitlin was here, she'd be in the same position as you because she also played the first two games. Oh, cool. That's great. I'll be looking forward to seeing you there. I think the reason why autistic people are so obsessed with video games is because it doesn't involve social skills. Oh, good. You're still here, Caitlin. Hopefully I haven't been saying anything offensive all this time, because it seems like every time you're here, I get into controversial territory, and I just want to make sure I'm not, like, crossing any boundaries or anything like that. But yeah, to answer your question, Sale, I think people with autism like video games because it doesn't involve social skills. It allows them to use their hands and allows them to use their brain, and it gives them something to focus on, Whereas with socialization, there's a lot of reading the room that goes on. And a lot of autistic people, when they hear that phrase, are going to be like, reading the room is not a book. That's an indication right there. So with video games, they can read like the code. They can look at the instruction manual. They can be like, well, when I press the control stick, this happens. In video games, there's always constants. Like video games by nature aren't random. There's usually a stream of code that determines why things happen. With people, you could say to one girl, hey, you look gorgeous. You could say to another girl the same thing. One girl will say, aw, you're so sweet. The other will be like, stop hitting on me, you pervert. So there's no one size fits all with socializing, whereas in video games there is. And that is why EOPL, what does that mean, Liz? Is that an abbreviation or was that a mistype? Oh, that's what you mean, Jevil. Yeah, people do often use music as a way of processing their emotions. I don't think that's necessarily an autistic thing. Intellectual social. I think that was, I think that's a good analysis. The physical center. If there is a disorder like that, I don't know about it. You'd probably have to ask someone else. Because I do not consider myself a medical professional. I don't consider myself a professional in just about anything except possibly public speaking. Okay, the only thing I can consider myself professional at is washing dishes because I was a dishwasher for 10 years. And I think if anyone knows how to clean a pot, it's me. So, what was I going to say? I totally forgot. Okay, so ADHD, I don't know much about it, but I do know that you can be ADHD without being autistic, but you can also have both. But they are not meant to be the same disorder. Just because you have ADHD does not mean you're autistic, and just because you're autistic does not mean you have ADHD. ADHD stands for attention deficit hyperactive disorder, and it basically means I'm not as much of an expert on that as I am on autism, but I would say ADHD just means an incredibly hard time focusing, which is weird because autistic people are very good at focusing. They're just not good at focusing on eye contact. That's like the one exception. But like when an autistic person gets into something, they're intensely into it. Whereas ADHD people will like start one project and then jump to something else. And I would think most ADHD people are also extroverts because they're like constantly in the need for more stimulation. Yeah, that's definitely something I've noticed, Liz, is that autism is usually about preserving the past and making sure that things are as they always were. They usually really like their routines. They don't really like change a whole lot. So it's pretty rare to see an autistic person that talks about innovation. Like, if they do, they have to have really, really developed how to pretend to be a neurotypical. PINP? Can't say I've ever heard of that. So if you want to go into detail, then feel free. Well, I am very thankful that none of you have said that video games are gross yet. That was definitely something in my childhood that I definitely am very glad that has been corrected lately. And that's when I was a kid, video games were very much the boy thing to do. And I was always like, there's got to be at least some girls that like video games. And nowadays, I'm finding that there are quite a bit, actually. It's just that, now I could be wrong, but what I have personally noticed in my own experience is that girls like video games, but they're more likely to stream and live stream the games that they're playing. To them, it's harder for them to like do deep dives and analysis on a video game like the guys do. So, I mean, I'm not saying they can't do that. Like Girlfriend Reviews does that, and she does a phenomenal job. But it's, I don't know, girls, I think, because girls are more often than not like very physically attractive, even if they don't think that they are, some of them feel like their physical presence is enough to get people to watch them by virtue of itself. Whereas guys, if the guy is ugly, like people are just not going to watch him. Whereas girls, a lot of girls are not ugly even if they try to be. So they can like easily get away with streaming and get the views just by the nature of being girls. Let's see, I'm missing a lot, so bear with me, guys, as I try to catch up here. Let's see. An imaginary disorder, that's pretty funny. Interesting, Caitlin. Yeah, I guess they need like a certain anchor to their focus. Like they need to, I guess, have an incentive. Undertale has a Christmas song? That would be, well, I guess Snowden is pretty Christmassy. Oh, that's so cool, Liz. I'll have to keep that in mind. I know for me, if I ever have trouble with eye contact, I just look at people's eyebrows. That usually helps for me. It also helps that I have a fascination with eyebrow. Oh, those are fighting words, Liz. Those are fighting words, because you know how much I don't like Phantom Hourglass. I can appreciate what it was trying to do, but the release schedule between when it was released and when Twilight Princess was released, such bad timing. Very, very bad timing. The DMS? What does DMS mean? And Javel, let me give you a piece of advice if you're ever worried about talking to girls. Actually, I'll give you two pieces of advice. One, there are girls here in the chat that I'm sure would love to talk to you. And so just say like, what kind of things do you guys like as a start? I mean, you say that to either gender. Like, I'm pretty sure everyone in the universe is okay with being asked what do they like. Another piece of advice is treat girls with respect and they'll respect you. Like, generally speaking, if they feel like, and obviously you guys can correct me in the comments if I'm wrong, because I feel like guys are like this too. People want to be treated as people, not as objects. So if all you're thinking about is, I don't know, mating with the girl or something like that, then the girl's going to say, well, don't you realize there's more to me than just my body? Don't you care about my personality? Don't you care about my interests? So if you show a definitive interest in what makes them a person and why they have an anima, meaning the soul, then you respect them more. Yeah, there you go. There you go. Liz is already getting you started, Jevel. So you can already, she is taken, but you can at least use her to practice talking to girls as friends. And some of you might be wondering, Paul, when did you start to be an expert on women? Well, it all started in 2010, really, when I went on a mission trip and I prayed to God that I would never have to speak to a female again. And then I ended up being swarmed by girls the rest of the camp. So I guess from that point on, I changed my language of how I talked to females. Like, I stopped making a lot of assumptions, for starters. and I started to come to the realization that there's nuance. And if you're autistic, you probably are struggling very, very hard with the concept of nuance. Nuance basically means that you can't just make a flat definition and expect that to be the only thing. Like if you just say to someone, hey guys, I'm autistic, and then expect them to automatically know who you are, that's not possible. Because autism is a spectrum, and there's also a lot of variables. Like not all autistic people are going to think the same. So nuance means that you could be autistic and like video games. You could be autistic and not like video games. You could be autistic and also bipolar. There's so much that makes a person that you have to be willing to ask them specific questions. And that's where I think that helped me out a lot with getting to know females, is that I would take into account that in my studies, and you girls are probably going to laugh at this when you hear this, but out of all of the girls I've talked to over the years, I repeat, the only personality trait that I found that every girl has in common that I've spoken to, you're going to laugh, bear with me, is that no girls like low-hanging pants. And that's it. There is literally nothing else that makes you guys in common in terms of a personality level. Like, sure, you have biological constants, otherwise you wouldn't be girls, but personality-wise, you're also different. And I think that's why autistic people might struggle with that, because they don't necessarily know how to grasp nuance. Let's see. Yes, I would agree. By definition, I guess that makes me insanely attractive then, Liz, because I'm totally okay with being single. If God wants me to date someone, I won't be opposed to it in principle, but if I wasn't a Christian, I would probably just decide to stay single. Would I be a girl of your dreams? I don't know, Sil, I'm not a girl. But I think if I was a girl, I would probably be a very different one, because being homeschooled and having the supportive family that I have definitely allowed me to circumvent a lot of peer pressure problems that people of any gender would struggle with. And I think, and I could be wrong, if I'm wrong, correct me, but what was I saying? From what I've noticed, females tend to have a harder time resisting peer pressure than guys do, because guys tend to be really focused on what they can see, but girls tend to be very focused on what they can hear. So for them, like hearing, like, you have to be this way, this is what you must conform to, the guys will say, get real, this is stupid. Girls can do that, but the vast majority of them end up getting really caught up in the culture of what is expected of a woman. So like, there are certain standards. There are certain standards that people expect all women to be. Like, they expect them to be a certain, they expect them to be a certain weight, a certain height, a certain hair color. They expect their legs to be perfectly smooth. And most girls have a hard time being able to say, that's stupid. Why would I want to give in to your desires? I don't even know you. Why are you trying to pressure me into being something that I'm not? So it ends up making a lot of girls have complexes over their appearance. And it leads to them like constantly worrying about their weight and their eyebrows and their hair, when they really shouldn't be worrying about that, because a lot of beauty standards are subjective anyway. Like, we've been talking about girls so much that as a guy, I can tell you, we are also very complicated individuals. And we also have different tastes and preferences. And there are some guys out there that are totally okay with a hairy leg. Not very many. I'm one of them. I love seeing girls with hairy legs. That's like a I like it because it's an active sense of rebellion. And I think that it's neat that people are capable of forming their own thoughts, because it's not, in the Catholic Church, it's not forbidden. So why does it have to act like it's forbidden? You're called a lizard? Oh, that's funny. Yeah, sorry for being so late to the party, Jevil. I got to get used to saying okay to a lot of the things you're saying, but yeah, I think $50 is pretty bad. I'm probably going to buy it, but then I'm going to show my distaste by probably not buying any other Nintendo games in the future, unless they're either discounted or I get a gift card. Because I was already planning on buying Switch Online because I promised some friends that I would stream certain games. So I kind of want to keep that promise. And I also kind of want to play a lot of the N64 games that weren't on Virtual Console, like Dr. Mario 64. Hygiene reasons, huh? Interesting. I guess that's one way of looking at it. But then again, people in France, I don't think French women shave their legs. So I think that's more of a cultural hygiene as opposed to an objective thing. Like, I'm pretty sure no one in the world likes the smell of armpits without deodorant. I mean, I'm sure there's one or two people out there that have a guilty pleasure in it. Like, there are some cultures where they woo their women by putting their handkerchiefs in their pits and then presenting them to the girl, because there are pheromones within your sweat, and pheromones are the chemical that can produce attraction. So in some cultures, it's totally okay to have body odor. Yeah, go for it, Jevil. You're not obligated to watch me all the way through. You go ahead and have yourself a blast. See you around. As for me, this is a funny story here, Caitlin. One time, I decided to rebel. And I said, you know what? Guys are always told that they shouldn't shave their legs. So I'm going to give it a try. So I decided to only do it on the left leg, just to prove a point. So I took my left leg and I shaved, I think it was from the knee down. This was back in like 2014, give or take. And then I left the right leg as it is. I've never touched the right leg. My right leg is what it is. And then I let the leg hair grow back. And then, much to my surprise, when it did grow back, there was a tiny little strip of skin right above the ankles that had no hair on it. And then I looked at my other leg, and that also had no hair on it. And the irony is that I only shaved the left leg. So why is it that that leg, some of the hair didn't grow back, but then on the other leg that I didn't shave, why was I not growing hair in that exact same spot? So was it a coincidence that I just happened to have leg balding at that exact moment in time? I don't know. But I always point that out when I'm going swimming. Like, hey guys, there's a part of my leg that's naturally smooth. Like, is that actually possible? And I think I've learned that in my family in particular, it's a genetic trait, because my brothers are also like that, where like right above their feet, they don't have hair. So I think it could just be the socks that we wear are like really tight. Like my socks go all the way up to here, to put that into perspective. So I don't know. Like, hair is a very weird subject. And I guess you could argue that maybe I go a bit overboard in talking about hair. Maybe that makes me socially awkward. I don't know. If you guys want to say that, go for it. I'm used to it by now. But I also think that there are certain things that are taboo in society that should be more talked about. And if maybe we talked about these things more, maybe we wouldn't have so many misunderstandings. Like, how do I word this? That could be getting into TMI territory, so I'll just redirect the conversation. But Sale, that was I gotta say, if you were looking for tips on how to talk to girls, that was a good start, what you were doing by talking about Liz's name. That is a very good starting point. Because for me, that often has gotten me into really good conversations with females, is they tell me their name, and then I repeat the name, and then I tell them about something that reminds me of their name, and then sometimes she'll have the mutual interest. Did you guys just disappear or something? Because like everyone's just all of a sudden gotten quiet. Maybe my YouTube's going weird. Let's see. It says that I'm not. Am I even still live? Let's see. Okay, that was just so weird. I thought maybe I had like scared everyone away or something. But like, yeah, like say for example, I was at a conference and I met someone named Paige. I'd say like, oh, I really like the name Paige because it reminds me of pages of a book. And I'm an author. Did you know that? And then she's like, oh, you're an author? Well, what kind of books do you write? So then that itself has started a conversation. If we use, say, Caitlin as a base, one of the girls that ended up changing my life on my first mission trip was named Caitlin. So I could say like, oh, well, let me tell you about what made that Caitlin so special to me. That could be a conversation starter right there. Sometimes when people talk about me, well, I can't say this has ever actually happened, but I think if someone was trying to talk to me and was afraid of talking to guys, they could start by saying, oh, Paul, like the murderer in the Bible. Some people are sensitive about that. Like there are people out there that do not like it when you give them nicknames. So I would say ask them first if that's okay with them. Like most of the time people are going to kind of be used to it. Like almost every name in American culture has a nickname with it. I happen to be one of the few people that I do not have an official nickname. Like, yes, people can say stuff like you are appalling or something like that, but there's no official variation of Paul. There are variations of the feminine version of Paul, like there's Paulina, Paulette, Pauline, but Paul as a name in American male naming is just Paul. So when people give nicknames to me, it's usually because they want to give a nickname. But there are people out there that have names that just naturally draw attention to their nicknames that people don't like. Like Elizabeth is actually the name in American language that has the most nicknames. But there are Liz's out there, and there are Elizabeths that'll say like, whatever you do not call me Betsy. Just do not. I have personal bad memories with that. So kind of want to tell, like, ask the person what their limits are. So what I do is I learned this the hard way when I encountered some people who were Indian, is ask people if they're okay with being called a nickname before you actually call them a nickname. Well, guys, my throat is getting a bit sore, so I think I'll probably wrap it up. Did you have any last thoughts or comments before I head out? I haven't even been streaming for an hour yet, and I'm already getting tired. That's saying something. Yeah, I can totally see you being an ENTP for sure. You definitely have that like hypothetical what if type of mind that works really well. Well, I guess while I'm waiting for people to type, I'll say the results of the poll. So 50% of you said that you were very excited for Sora. 17% said you didn't know who Sora was. And 33% said that you were here for me, and not just for Sora. So I am really thankful that you guys took the time to vote. So, yeah, oh, there we go. I don't even need to, I don't even need to tell you the results because it just showed up in the chat. Caitlin, when we do some more Twitter stuff, I definitely will want to probe your mind about the Kingdom Hearts games because I really, really want to get into them. Liz, thank you so much for constantly crashing my streams. It's always a pleasure to see what random things your mind comes up with next. Sale, it was good talking to you again, period, because I forgot what your YouTube name was. So that's nice that you told me that you still exist. And for the rest of you, thank you for putting up with me for so long. Sometimes I don't even know how I put up with myself. So until the next time, just remember to keep the faith, stay epic, God bless, and yeah, I totally want to see your new videos, Sale. I'll totally look into that after this. Maybe not right away, but definitely within the near future. I will definitely do that. So I hope you guys all have a wonderful day, and I'll talk to you on the next live stream. Catch you around.